Look, I'm not so sure that this thing is as bad as everyone has been saying that it is. When it comes to weapon and gear, I always make that decision for myself. Sometimes exotics and things come out, and even I can't really find really good synergy or importance for the exotic. But with this one, I think I know exactly where players are finding an issue, but I don't see that issue. So, shamefully, I guess, I'm gonna say I really like targeted redaction. And as I just said, really important to try things for yourself, because for me, there are two main reasons why I really like this thing. And one of those reasons, we're gonna do a legit breakdown, but the other is just a me thing. I love the way that this thing feels. I do, and feel is important. And as a matter of fact, feel might be like a top 3 thing overall when it comes to a weapon. And as far as feel, I've narrowed it down to a couple things. For me, it's the Spare Rations skin. And Spare Rations, it's one of the most unique hand cannons we've ever had as far as looks, visual feedback, the sound, shooting experience. You know when you're firing Spare Rations. And to couple that, I really like this version of this weapon skin the most. We've fired this thing at 150 RPM, 140 RPM, now 120. I like the 120 the most, hands down. This thing feels great to me. So player experience, gonna be different for everybody. For me, this thing's awesome. Now, the other thing, I do view this as raw stats. And I think about now, the future, what we're actually trying to do with this thing. As a void craftable 120, you can make it how you want. And in that third column, well-rounded, triple tap, outlaw, invisible hand, envious assassin, shot swap, perfect float, final column, keep away, collective action, destabilizing rounds, focus fury, explosive payload, harmony, frenzy. I think the main issue lies in that third column, and I get it. The only really passive one is invisible hand, yeah, but I think it has good perks here for what I want to do with it. So here's my thinking. I want to talk about a little oldie but goodie, True Prophecy. I had 3 of them total. The one that I used the most was Rangefinder Rampage, and I wore that thing right out, like over 2,500 PvP kills. This was back when 120s could 2-tap with Rampage. Then they couldn't 2-tap. I deleted it to get some vault space back. But I kept 2 of those. One is Overflow Explosive Payload, 18 round mag with EP. I found it really good. Then the other one was Rangefinder Elemental Cap, and I kept it min-max wise. This is legitimately the most min-max range and stability you could ever get on a 120. It gets to 67 on a Void subclass. I have all stability perks, including steady rounds. Rangefinder filled that gap for the range. 38 meter fall off, nearly 70 stability. The thing felt great. It dueled great. But with these 120s as a whole, one thing I always keep an eye on, a big draw is explosive payload. For a number of reasons. 1, flinch. 2, a split bullet of a 120 helps it perform well outside of its band. The explosive part's 26 damage, always, no matter the distance, and then also the damage from the other bullet, which is going to be at floor. So, for what, 40 damage at, say you hit a shot at 100 meters? That's pretty good. Then we start taking into account the range shakeup that's getting ready to come at the end of the month. Explosive payload extends that a little bit. It helps at least. And a 120 hand cannon at 100 range, it's going to cap out to what we believe is 40 meters. And explosive payload wise on a 120, we have 1, bottom dollar, a gambit drop, it's void, 1 out of 12 chance to drop with explosive payload, 2, criminal's dagger, old, 3, loud lullaby, old, you can grind for it. It's a kinetic, True Prophecy, old, it's a kinetic. So 2 kinetic options and 2 non-kinetic options that happen to be void. One of them is craftable, the other is a 1 out of 12 chance gambit. When you set this thing up, you have a couple ways to go about it. And when you look at it on paper, I think that there's some things to like here. Keeping in mind the shakeup coming at that mid-range at the end of the month. I don't see an issue here, because small bore, range masterwork, Agorize is 83 range, 30 stability, combined with explosive payload. You add on well-rounded, times 1, it's 93 range, 40 stability with explosive payload. Get a little bit of reload help. It lasts for 15 seconds, and then at times 2 well-rounded, it's 100 range, 50 stability, 46 reload with explosive payload. Perfect for a grapple hunter, possibly a devour lock, shade binder. You can get that buff up a lot. Maybe you go small bore stability masterwork, 73 range, 40 stability with explosive payload. I think that by itself is gonna be fine with the range shakeup, because these things notoriously have poor stability. You're getting it to 40, and you're helping range the 73 stat with explosive payload. That third column though, you have your hands tied. Triple tap, no. Outlaw, not with explosive payload. That bullet splits in 2, and if the explosion part gets the actual final blow, no outlaw procs. I wouldn't do it. Invisible hand, no. Envious, no. Shot swap, no. Then we have perfect float. This is going to be your other main option. Be in combat for 6 seconds. There's a lot of peeking going on with the 120. You need to deal or receive damage within the last 3 seconds, counting up to 6. That gap is 3.5 seconds if you have enhanced. While it is up, 35% flinch resist and 30 AE for 5 seconds. If you stay in combat, it's just up. As your two main options, as you've been seeing, I went perfect float, explosive payload. I'm using Falcon Hunter. Go invis, come out. This thing has volatile rounds with explosive payload, getting an overshield, getting devour. You can use it on other subs, being void, or just in general have good range, even high range, dueling with perfect float, explosive payload. And if you solely want this thing for a grapple hunter, seriously, one of the best ideas you could have. That's when you start getting into that 100 range, 50 stability, explosive payload kind of area. That's a beast. Undeniable. You can abuse well-rounded, just min-max the whole thing. You can even do small bore stability masterwork. Well-rounded ×2 is 97 range. It's right there. And in other perks that fourth column, like sure, we have Focus Fury. That's pretty special to it. 8-round magazine, half of those have to be crits, 20% more damage for 12 seconds enhanced. You can loop it, really special to a 120. The only other 120 is pure poetry. Again, that's a huge dice roll, 1 out of 12 to even get that thing. This thing's craftable. The stabilizing rounds, PvE-wise, maybe a Void Titan, but with targeted redaction, I really like the feel of it. That Sparrow Ration's just skin, shooting it at 120 RPM, and then breaking it down to where or if we can get to 80 range with explosive payload, near that max 40 meter mark, I don't see an issue. It's a dueling hand cannon and it duels well. I loved my True Prophecies, loved my Lullabies, bottom dollars. And I think even with Igneous coming back, and that thing is gonna be everywhere, it will be meta again, but hopefully it doesn't come back with explosive payload because this thing will hold true. And since it's so few and far in between, maybe you're new to the game, maybe you never got the roll when they were out with Bottom Dollar, Loud Lullaby, True Prophecy, try a 120 with explosive payload. It works a lot better than you would think. When it comes to the base stats, it has the same range as Round Robin. And while yes, you can do Keep Away in that final fourth column, I think its niche is going to be with explosive payload. And then to kind of round it all out, we have the Origin trait, Unsated Hunger. Increased handling, reload, and stability when no abilities are fully charged. And we believe that it's 60 handling, 60 reload, 20 stability, while you don't have any grenade, melee, or class abilities up. And it's going to continue to stay there until you start getting a class ability. So I found with how I'm running this with your Falcon, I did max mobility, so I get my dodge as fast as possible to use my Falcon, and I did midline discipline and strength. I use a magnetic grenade with the smoke bomb. I go for the wombo combo 90% of the time, so that combination just one-shots. So my thinking, I'm just gonna one-shot an enemy, and if it doesn't, I have dodged already, I don't have any abilities up, I have this perk going, and with the perks up, the gun feels even better. And if you went well-rounded with small bore, stability masterwork, accurized rounds, we're talking 93 range, 80 stability, 100 handling, 85 reload. And I want you to really think about those stat lines with explosive payload. Like as far as a dueling hand cannon and the way I kind of set up my sub with the midline discipline and strength, hunger was up a ton. When it started to be up, it was because I had my dodge and I would immediately dodge to go invis to use your Falcon and then it would be up. So since it's craftable, get you a high range explosive payload, try it out, then work in well-rounded with a character or subclass that can kind of abuse well-rounded. If not, there's perfect float. And when it comes to Titan and Warlock, be mindful of that Hunger Origin trait. If you go midline, that way it's not completely hopeless for your other abilities, your grenade and melee. Get them midline to where you use them when you need them, and when they're not there, you're kind of supercharging the weapon. It's very interesting, and like I said, I've found I really like the play loop with it. The Origin trait helps a ton, and it feels great, but that's gonna be up for you to decide. My goal, my plan, is to show you what is happening, what can happen, and things to think about. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about targeted redaction down below. And there's no wrong answer. You can say, it's not better than X weapon that I have. You can say, I just don't like the feel of it, I don't like the look of it. Or are you on that other side saying, you know what? I think it's pretty good too. Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.